Cowboy Bebop hits different when you're like sad, bro. Like and subscribe if you've ever been sad. I'm Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots. When you're talking about anime, very rarely does Cowboy Bebop not come up when you're talking about the classics. This sci-fi space western noir and its endlessly relatable characters have cemented themselves into not only anime, but pop culture history. There isn't much that hasn't already been said about this amazing show. So of course I'm getting drunk and saying things about this show. Hold on to your asses, because we're getting pretentious with this one. Kraken is dangerously smooth. There's media that is best consumed at certain points in your life. When you're a little kid, those are movies like The Land Before Time and books like Harry Potter. They can get scary, but they're hopeful. They show that no matter how big and scary life can get, that shouldn't stop you from moving forward. As we grow into adolescence, we find music that matches the angst every teenager feels as they come to terms with their individuality. You know the albums. Nevermind, Dookie, Your Favorite Weapon, The Black Parade, and so on and so on. Whatever poison's in this bottle, whatever broken sword. I know you had an emo phase, because if you didn't, you're lying. And even as we grow older, with musicals like Company, which is about coming to terms with things like marriage and life after your 20s. Generally speaking, art is a reflection of the artist's own struggles and experiences. It's a cathartic release, an attempt at not only understanding one another, but understanding ourselves. But Mike, none of those are anime. Shut the fuck up. I'm getting there, okay? Anime is an interesting case because it's really only in the past decade and a half or so that it really started to garner respect as a medium. In the West, at least, anime has always kind of been seen as children's entertainment. We know now this isn't the case, but unless you were Adult Swim, most other outlets didn't really understand that. And for many of us, we consumed anime as kids and into our adolescence. A lot of us probably saw Cowboy Bebop when it first aired, and I'm willing to bet a lot of us were much younger. Cowboy Bebop being aired alongside other shows like Trigun and Inuyasha. You know, a lot of us had no business watching Evangelion when we were 12, but let's be real, a lot of us still did. I remember staying up late one night and watching the episode with the psychotic murder clown and really getting the sense that maybe the show wasn't for me.
Forget it. I don't need the info anymore.
It seemed very adult. And that's honestly the best way to describe this show. Very adult. Star Wars for people with a little more life experience. Now, it wasn't adult in a graphic or sexual way, but it was adult in a much sadder kind of way. Like all the ways you were disappointed by life growing up, the show knows how to conjure up those feelings again. The show follows bounty hunter Spike Spiegel, a martial artist with a calm demeanor who has a checkered past with a known crime syndicate. Faye Valentine, a brash woman who has a propensity, that's an SAT word, for gambling and drinking, who is cryogenically frozen, waking up 50 years into the future with no memory of who she is. And Jet Black, an ex-cop who left a corrupt police force and found himself a bounty hunter. Definitely not the Brady Bunch.
Sure, Jan.
What I love about the show is that everything from the writing to the production design feels lived in. The world feels kind of run down. The side characters you meet feel like they have entire lives outside of what we see. And that's a major theme of the show. There's no inciting incident. There's no big I want musical number. It's just two bounty hunters going about their days, drifting through life. Oftentimes, the bounties they go after involve people with lives of their own. And oftentimes, they either end tragically or just aren't resolved at all. This isn't a story about bounty hunters saving the day. And this isn't a Monster of the Week show with happy resolutions. It's people's lives, the good, and often bad and ugly. And yet our crew always returns back to the Bebop. What can you do? Which is something you come to terms with as you get older. It's like there's constant reminders of just how disappointing life can be it around us on the periphery or in our own lives. But there's a point where you have to just look back and ask yourself, what can you do? Can't be helped.
Oh well, whatever happens, happens.
And that's really fucking depressing. One of my favorite episodes is Ganymede Elegy. Jet gets a lead about a bounty on his home planet Ganymede, where his ex used to live, who left him without warning. Definitely don't know what that feels like, Jesse. Only to result in the cruelest twist of fate. The bounty turns out to be his ex's new boyfriend. But the episode resolves with a sense of closure. One of the last things that Jet says to Alyssa, right after her new boyfriend gets arrested, is,
I don't think you'll be waiting very long. Because time never stands still, you know?
And in a Breakfast Club moment, throws the last remnant of his relationship to Alyssa into the river. I only cry a little bit when I watch this one. The series is filled with little anecdotes like that. Another thing I love about the show is how subtly it shows that these characters are really lonely. When you're an adult, you're kind of expected to show composure, not vulnerability, as toxic as that may be, but it's kind of a way of life. These characters are all dealing with something that haunts them, but they continue to move forward because that's all you really can do. That's where Ed and Ein come into play. So in episode 2, the duo go on a bounty, but leave with nothing but a Welsh corgi. Ein, which is short for Einstein, is what's called a data dog, which means he has borderline human intelligence, but it also means he's a huge smartass. And in episode 9, we meet Edward, a space orphan girl who's an incredibly skilled hacker who doesn't have a care in the world. While they serve as the show's comic relief, they're barely one-dimensional. They are everything that Spike, Jet, and Faye are missing in their lives. Edward and Ein aren't weathered by past relationships or trauma like everyone else is. Which brings me to my next point. This show isn't always as depressing as so long. This show gets weird in the best ways. There's this one episode where the whole crew gets high on mushrooms and the little girl and the fucking Welsh corgi have to chase down a bounty.
Edward calls Ein a cow wolf is lit.
There's another episode where Faye gets a mysterious Betamax tape in the mail, and the one kind thing that Spike and Jet try to do takes half the fucking episode, and it's just them looking for a Betamax player, and then they fuck up because they get a VHS player instead, only to have a Betamax player delivered the next day. And for those of you under 30, you probably have no clue what a Betamax player is. Don't worry about it. You remember those Teletubbies VHS tapes you had in the pink cassette thing? These were the same thing, but like smaller. It was cool. It was a thing. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. These poor guys busted a mission for nothing. Same, dude. That's not the most adult shit. I don't know what is. The one that breaks me every time is the episode where Faye, Ed, and Ein finally leave the Bebop. Watching Ein patter off the Bebop with Ed, and watching Faye sit in a desolate house realizing that she'll never really come to terms with who she used to be, while Spike and Jet sadly stare at the graffiti that Ed left is sad enough. It hits you because by that point we, the audience, have become attached to these characters. And then Spike calls out for dinner, only to be met with silence. And then him and Spike shove boiled eggs down their throat in an attempt not to come to terms with the fact that they've become attached. Really drives the point home that you don't know what you got until it's gone, Monica. I'm sucking at. He owes me one last wish. However, the most prevalent thing I think I took away from this series is the last quote of the show. You're going to carry that weight. And as I get older, I feel like I understand that more and more. The more you experience as you grow older, the more life tends to leave you feeling weathered. Hell, it's our life experiences that make us who we are, because you can't change what you've been through. You're going to carry the weight of past relationships. You're going to carry the weight of what felt like better days, the weight of those you've hurt, the weight of all your triumphs and all your successes and all your sacrifices, the weight of knowing that everybody has their own life with their own experiences and their own troubles. Hell, even the weight of this show's very own tragic ending. However, despite the tragedy and beauty that we witness in our day-to-day lives, time marches forward, and whether we like it or not, you're going to carry that weight. So the show is about people with sometimes self-destructive coping mechanisms. If you want to help me support my self-destructive coping mechanisms, you can support us on Patreon. It helps me make the show. It helps us do some cool things too. We also do some private streams. We have some merch. It's a grand old time. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, whether you like the show, what if you didn't like it, what are some of your favorite memories with it. I love reading the comments and interacting with you guys. It's a lot of fun. Like the show if you liked it. Disliked it if you hate my dumb face. I'm Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.